everywhere. This is Ask the Dating Coach. I am your resident dating coach for today, Chris Hollywood. Hope you guys are well. Some of you might know me as Chris Hollywood from the ACE Formula. Good deal. Oh, wow, we got people in here. Awesome. Hello, hello. Let me just make sure everyone can hear and see. Good. All right. Hello, hello, everyone. All right, we got some good questions from the website and the Facebook pages and things of that sort. Going to go through all of them today. Feel free to enter more follow-up questions in the chat um, as I go through. If anything sparks your interest, feel free to make a note. Let me know if you got a good golden nugget here or there. And when I'm done with the pre questions that we were sent over the last month, I will go through and answer any more if we've got time. So we got a good hour. Let's get started. Cool. So again, some of you might know me as the abundance coach from the ACE formula. So a lot of the questions, obviously, for this chat are going to be abundance concept related. So looking forward to that. I think we got a really good list of questions. People have been asking great ones. So let's get into the first one. So first off, what does it mean to have a mind of abundance or an abundance mindset? So what it means to have an abundance mindset is to look at everything. It's kind of like a half full perspective. And I think, I'm not very much an optimist or a pessimist. Very much prefer to be a realist and be real what is in front of me or what I'm perceiving or what's in my life. But the abundance mentality is sort of realigning maybe your expectations or your needs to what is real and getting comfortable with what is real and realizing that, okay, well, if you're alive and you're breathing and you're in the moment right now, whatever you have, whether it's relatively a lot or relatively little, it's enough. All right. And getting to a point where you can view what you have now, your current state now, as enough, and seeing some of the positivity in that, and some of how maybe you have more than others, and how you can use that. So it's taking a perspective of, I have enough. It's not really optimistic or pessimist per se. And again, it can be misinterpreted as that. So I want to be super clear. I'm not saying be an optimist and be like glass is half full, or half empty, right? Be real. I haven't, I have 4 ounces of liquid, regardless of what my glass is. That's what I have, right? And realizing I was like, hey, that's a lot, right? And if my glass is empty, and it's like, I have an abundance of air. What can I do with this empty glass, right? And so it's kind of, I think that's the best analogy I could come up with off the top of my head, and getting that perspective on what abundance is. It's not, hey, is my glass half full or half empty? It's, hey, I have half a glass of water and I have half a glass of air. Or I have a full glass of air. I have a full glass of water. What can I do with that? How can I utilize that? That's enough to sustain me and allow me to do X, Y, and Z. So it's just, what can I do? What can I build off of, and create with where I am, versus, oh, I can't do X, Y, and Z because I don't have this. And that's really what it means to have an abundance mindset. It's like, hey, I've got extra. I'm going to give and create, and build off of what I have, rather than focusing on what I lack. And I'd like to do this, but I can't. And this is my blockage. It's like, no, no, no. I have these things, right? And I'm going to create from there. I'm going to build from there, and I'm going to use those things. So again, that's a very general, again, not very dating specific, but that's what an abundance mindset is. And if you can apply that to your to every aspect of your life, you will go through life, again, just portraying and exhibiting more confidence, and a lot of other positive attributes, which is why having an abundance mentality is so important. So I think I'll clarify some more on that as we go through some of the other questions, because they get into, obviously, abundance concepts and mindsets. Um, Question number two, does the abundance mentality actually work? The abundance mentality does indeed actually work. I think all of my success in dating and why I'm in front of you now has very much come from embodying that abundance mindset. Um, I can tell you from all the students in the ACE formula, ACE, if you don't know, the ACE formula is our top dating program. You start with A, the abundance coach, A for abundance, that's me. Then you have your confidence coach, and then you have your escalation coach, right? And all of the students who have had amazing success just by implementing the abundance section of the program, of the formula. And again, like it gets better as you go forward, but just by getting the abundance mentality right changes all of their results in dealing with not just women in dating, but just people in life, their family, their friends, their employers, their colleagues, all those things. It it really does work. So again, look at the testimonials on the ACE formula website. It certainly worked for me. It's worked for the other Ask the Dating Coach coaches. I guess so. Again, the proof is in the pudding. People have done it and it works. And if you do all the say mechanical, technical things, but you approach it without that abundance mentality, a lot of times it doesn't work. So it is a key ingredient. Like you do need the full recipe. You can't leave that mentality out. And I think one of the biggest I guess one of the biggest takeaways I'd want you to have um, is, and it's to sort of, and to like why it actually works, is because one of the first things that we want to do with an abundance mindset is to create attraction, right? Like that's one of, I guess, that's one of the biggest benefits, right? And so, are you attracted to something that is constantly taking from you? Right? Or something that is constantly giving to you. What would you prefer to have in your backyard? A black hole or a well? And just like the most basic example I can think of, but like a black hole is just gonna suck and take and like destroy energy and matter, right? Whereas a well is a place where there's always water being given and overflowing and providing, right? Like people are attracted to wells. You put wells in your backyard, you want a well in your community, right? You don't want a black hole, right? And again, a little fanciful, but I hope that illustrates it. It's someone, if you are a person with an abundance mentality, you then start presenting yourself to the world as a well. Someone the opposite with a scarcity mentality is going to be a black hole. And those people, again, you probably have encountered them, and they always have problems. They seem very needy. It's just draining. Even if they're not talking, you can if you're in a crowded room or a bar, you can feel those people because it's like just the black hole of energy and negativity. They're just sucking all of the good vibes out. Whereas someone with an abundance mentality is just providing good vibes, right? And again is a wellspring of positivity and goodness, and people are always going to be attracted to that, right? No one's like, hey, I'll build a black hole in the public square. No, you build a well so that everyone wants to have that in their public square, in their town, in their village. Everyone wants to have a well because that's going to give to them. So I think if the question being, does the abundance mentality actually work? Yes, it most certainly does. Look at the testimonials on the ACE formula, website. Ask the dating coach, forums. Definitely have, testimonials and people speaking to that. It's worked for me. It's worked for the other ACE formula coaches. But again, I think reading deeper into the question and getting to the heart of it is like, well, why does it actually work? That's why. You want to be what's the you want to be a sun, I guess, is kind of the opposite of a black hole, right? You want to be radiating positive, useful energy, and things that people are going to be attracted to. So that's the answer to that. All right, next question. So how to use an abundance mindset to attract love? Okay, so I'm going to tell you how to use the abundance mindset to attract love. I want to answer that question because, again, I think it's a good question, but I want to unpack it a little bit because there's a lot of words and jargon that might be a little bit convoluted, right? So, first off, let's put love in a box for a second, because the concept of love is very interesting and a bit misunderstood. Love is kind of like a chemical reaction in your brain, and if anyone has followed Adam Lyons for a while, he's definitely spoken about this many times before, and talking about the four various brain chemicals. Well, there's five. There's four positive ones and one negative one. The negative one being cortisol. One of the five positive brain chemicals is one called oxytocin. It's known as the bonding chemical. It's also known as the love chemical, right? This is the chemical that is released through a woman's body when she gives birth, because she immediately, instantaneously, almost instantaneously, but like very quickly in a few minutes, chemically falls in love with the baby when it's born. And that's like critical for survival, right? And I think at least all mammals have that kind of instantaneous response to oxytocin. So that bonding chemical, like when we laugh and we hug people and we have intimate, interactions with other human beings, that builds oxytocin, right? You spend a lot of times with your friends, you have good vibes with them, you have good positivity, that's oxytocin bonding. And essentially, love is a cocktail of those chemicals and primarily oxytocin. So, to say that we attract love is not exactly correct. And I want to dispel that because you don't attract love. If anything, love is something that you feel by investing in another person, right? So you invest in them and you spend that time with them and you create those good experiences, and that makes you feel like one of the tribe, one of the community. You have this closeness, this bond. That's why it's called a bonding chemical, right? And now you feel love. Doesn't mean that person feels love, and obviously that's not a very ideal situation. The reverse is true. If someone invests in you and you don't invest in them, and they continue to invest in you, and they feel that closeness with you and they get that oxytocin release, right? They're going to love you, right? And you don't, necessarily have any feelings for them. Again, I'm sure some people have experienced some of that. That's also not good. So that's love. So again, I just want to unpack that word because it's a very powerful word and it's often very misunderstood. Getting back to abundance, right? So how do I use the abundance mindset? So it's just to attract, I think is a better question, just to attract people, right? Um, that is a question that I want to delve into, and I think that's very much in my remit as your abundance coach. So the way the abundance mindset attracts people to want to say love you, aka invest in you, right, is by being, as I used the analogy before, a sun versus a black hole, right? Someone with the abundance mindset is giving, right? Sun is giving energy and heat and radiation and light. It's giving things, positive things, right? It's radiating plentifulness, this extra, right? Where no one's worried about the sun's not worried about running out. I mean, eventually in a billion years it will, but like no one's worried about that. And most importantly, the sun's not worried about that. The sun's happy to give and give and give because it's got extra gas, light, radiation, and it's giving all those things off, right? As opposed to, again, quickly, scarcity mindset. That's like a black hole, it's just giving and sucking and taking and not returning anything, right? And so the way if you embody and encapsulate and live and personify an abundance mindset, and you're constantly giving, right? People are going to want to nurture you, right? It's like that. What's the whole like the fable or I don't know? Is it a nursery rhyme? It's like the goose that laid the golden eggs, right? If you've got a goose and it's got an abundance of gold and it's just gonna shit eggs and give golden eggs, right? That's something valuable. Like it's like, hey, it's the goose lays the eggs, and not like, oh, I made that. That's my golden egg. It's like, no, here, have eggs. I'm gonna lay another one tomorrow, right? People are then going to want to nurture that goose. People are going to love that goose, aka they're going to invest in it. They're going to want to spend time with it. They're going to pet the goose. They're going to feed the goose. They're going to, want to be the goose's friends. If a big bad wolf tries to eat the goose, right? People are going to protect the goose and stand up for it and protect it and spend time with the goose, right? Because it's giving positivity, right? It's giving things value. It's radiating value on a regular basis, right? And so again, I don't want that to be taken too much as a tangible example, right? It's not like you need to buy friends or love, but again, just good feelings. Like there's so much to be said simply by having an abundance mentality, all the good vibes, right? Like a positive atmosphere and positive feelings and warmth and safety and confidence. If you can radiate those feelings by embodying an abundance mentality, people are just going to want to spend time with you. They're going to want to hang out with you, right? And from that, they're going to eventually invest in you. And then some of those people are going to invest so much that they will fall in love with you, right? And so again, ACE formula will help you, if you guys, want to take part in that, they will help you guide into that and how to pick and choose, and that's what it's all about. But initially, again, to answer the question, like how to use the abundance mindset to to attract love, well, one, use the abundance mindset to attract people, all types of people, right? And that's, again, that's when we get into you know my coaching as the abundance coach in the ACE formula. That's my step, right? I don't teach you how to go on dates necessarily, or get a kiss and elevate and escalate relationships. Again, that's what your confidence and escalation coaches are for. My job as the abundance coach is just to teach you how to make friends rapidly with strangers and build a huge social group and have an abundance of human beings in your life. And if you can do that, if you have an abundance, an infinity of human beings, right? Like just a sick number, like more friends and acquaintances and people that you're meeting every week than you can possibly count, well, then there's a good chance, 50% of them statistically are going to be women, right? And then there's a good chance, and again, if you're looking, if on the other side, same thing. This applies to women when we coach women as well. 50% of them are going to be men. And again, there's just the law of numbers. And even if you're, lesbian or gay, you're going to find the person you want, right? Just math is going to do that. Like whoever is right for you, and then even then subset. I want someone in this age bracket or this religion or whatever it is that you're looking for. If you have an abundance of human beings in your life that you're giving good vibes to, they're going to want to see you again, and they're going to start putting in the effort to seeing you, right? And there's ways that obviously, when I coach, I teach people ways to make that easier for them to lower the barrier of entry so they can invest in you and spend time with you. But that's the key, right? Is, again, that initial abundance mindset. You're giving off good vibes, people want to spend time with you, and then from that subset of people, there are steps you can take to turn all those people that want to be your friend, that want to hang out with you, whatever have you, into romantic relationships of any type of nature, and or escalate them into friendships of any nature, or maybe business relationships, right? But the first step is the abundance, and that's where the abundance mentality translates into an abundance of something tangible. I have an abundance of human beings that like spending time with me and are going to put in effort, and invest in spending time with me, in one way or another, because I'm giving them positive chemicals. I'm giving them good feelings. I'm giving them good vibes, right? And again, that can all be very non-tangible, non-monetary stuff, just good feelings and good vibes. So, in short, that's how the abundance mindset will help you attract love. So again, first, it's all about attracting people that want to be around you and are going to then, because you've given them such good vibes, they're going to want to invest in you and take care of you. And that is going to essentially trigger the oxytocin chemical, which will in turn trigger love. So, a lot there. Hope that was helpful. Great question. Really great question. All right, next. Why is gratitude one of the keys to abundance mindset with dating? Oh, great question. This is awesome. So, the reason why gratitude is a key element of the abundance mindset, especially when dating, especially, it's true all the time, but especially when dating, um, is because no one enjoys being with someone who, again, I love this analogy of who's like a black hole, who's always sucking the energy out of the room and out of conversations and being negative, and sucking all the good vibes out of an environment, right? People don't enjoy that. People want to be with someone who's providing and giving good feelings and good vibes and positivity and emotions of all sorts, right? And so when you're trying to embrace the abundance mentality, obviously there's a, I'm very much a realist, not an optimist or a pessimist. There's very much, I have these things in my life, I don't have these things. Like, these are facts. But gratitude is so important in maintaining the abundance mindset, because it's getting you to focus on what you do have. And that's the key, right? It's not, the glass is half full or half empty. It's just whether it's half full, it's half empty. If I have a drop, even if I have an empty glass full of air, why am I glad I even just have a glass? I have a glass full of air. How can I be gracious and have gratitude about having the air, right? Or an empty glass. Like what's good about an empty glass? And taking the perspective of gratitude helps us tap into, even if, again, life isn't great, or you've in the past been focused on scarcity and things that you've been missing, and you don't necessarily have everything that you want. Um, Gratitude gets us to tie into appreciating what we have now, right? And appreciating what you have now then lets you realize, oh, I got stuff. I have something, because you can't build anything, in a vacuum. You have to build on something, right? Physically, relationally, conceptually, like you have to build on something. So I can't build on things that I don't have. I have to start where I am now. So what do I have? Let me be glad I have this. Now, it might be not everything I want to have for the rest of my life. I might not have all of my goals. I mean, me personally, like I feel like I embody an abundance mentality. Like I have an abundance of things. I'm very grateful for those things. And anytime I'm a little frustrated that I didn't meet my goals for the week or the quarter, or there's things that I want and I don't have yet, like, I don't have my own private jet yet, right? But I don't allow that to knock me out of an abundance mentality, right? I focus on, hey, I'm grateful for the things that I do have, and I'm going to utilize those things as little as they happen to be, or as much, whatever it is, what I have. I'm going to be grateful I have those things, and I'm going to leverage the things that I do have to go get that private jet, right? And I'm going to build up to that. So that's the key. Um, and if you have that, again, it's I don't want to, let's say, call it positive or negative, but there's an element of, again, the gratitude is just being happy for what you have. It is a very positive. It's not pessimistic or optimistic, but it is positive. It's having a positive light. It's like, hey, I can have everything. I don't necessarily have it now, but I will eventually. And that's super key for dating. That's super key for anyone, right? And so again, you'll hear me say this, and again, being the abundance coach, it's a big focus. Is you know one of the first steps, and why abundance is so important, is because before you can start dating, you just need to have friends. You just need to be having a lot of people around. Like you can't, the idea that you can be, a hermit on an island and start dating, is kind of crazy. And I think a lot of people, again, a lot of students that we do have in ACE formula, approach it from that angle, and they're like, hey, why am I struggling? Right? I got my dating profiles, I got my dating app, all these things like that. And I was like, yeah, but you never actually meet human beings. You go to work and you go home. You go to work and you go home, and that is not going to work. And then when you are with people, if you're not demonstrate or embodying an abundance mindset and radiating that positivity and that giving nature, right? Like the sun or like a well. Hey, I have extra value to give here, right? And again, that extra value could just be, positive feelings with compliments, right? If I'm in a social environment and I'm worried about, my insecurities, like, oh, am I fat? Is my outfit right? I'm underdressed or I'm overdressed. Oh, I didn't shave well enough, or right. If I'm worried about what's wrong with me, right, as opposed to, hey, I can go make someone else feel comfortable. There might be someone else who is insecure. I can compliment somebody else's outfit rather than worrying about, oh, maybe my outfit's not up to par, right? Or whatever it is. That's a very key example of an abundance mentality. And if you're the person that goes into a room or environment or a community and you're constantly offering those good feelings in that way and that positivity, because you're coming from an abundance mindset, people are going to gravitate to you and they're going to want to spend time with you. And people who want to spend time for you eventually become boyfriends, girlfriends, partners, relationships, things of that sort. And that's why it's so critical for dating, right? Because if you're dating, presumably you're going to spend a lot of time with each other, you want to be with someone, that you're going to spend a majority of your time with, that's going to be giving you positive feelings and is going to be uplifting rather than draining. So great question. That's why it's important. Let's see. Next one up. So how to avoid a scarcity mindset knowing that life is short. All right, this is a great question. So in talking about abundance, how do we avoid a scarcity mindset, which would be the opposite of an abundance mindset, keeping in mind facts that life is short. Really love this question. It shows some really solid perspective, and the answer to that is very simple. It's focusing on gratitude, which was a question I covered earlier. Uh, Focusing on gratitude and appreciating what you do have in the moment, right? And um, I think it was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle talks about being in the present. And yeah, life is short. And so, you know, if you really focus in on the fact that yes, there's a scarcity of time, I think if you really focus in on that, and that book, The Power of Now, really gets into embracing the moment and those concepts of, hey, yeah, there is a scarcity of time and how to approach it and think about it. The abundance perspective and how to maintain the abundance mindset is, hey, we're in the now, right? You have this moment, right? Right now, I have an abundance of right now. So how do I make this great, right? Because again, if we take if we have a true scarcity of time, if you will, right? Like if I know I'm gonna die in a couple of hours, well, I have right now, right? And so I would say continue. If that's your train of thought, continue with that train of thought. Like, not that like life is short, like life, isn't guaranteed 2 minutes from now, like I could, finish this seminar and go get hit by a car, right? So if I only have an hour, even, right? If I have a few minutes, then I only have right now. I have an abundance of right now. I have 100% of right now, right? And that's how to fight the scarcity mindset, right? That's how I'm grateful. That's the gratitude is the key, right? I'm grateful that I at least have right now, right? And it may be fleeting, but I have this time right now. What can I do with it? Right? What can I do with right now? Right? If I know I'm gonna, die in, tomorrow or an hour, right? Then what can I do with right now? Right? Who can I add value to right now? Right? How can I make my life have meaning right now? Right? And what can I be happy about right now? Right? I'm happy that I'm able to take all the things that I've learned from Adam Lyons over the last decade plus, and that's made my life absolutely amazing and awesome, right? Like my life is black and white from, say 15 years ago to 5 years ago, right? That period, that transition, like I couldn't even imagine the transition, right? And I'm so grateful for that. What can I do right now? Well, I can share that with you guys, right? And it's a Sunday, you know, and this is a day that I like to spend with my son, right? And we want to go play in the snow because it's freaking snowing in Texas. When the hell does that happen? That's like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And we're going to do that right now. Assuming I don't die in the next hour, we're going to do that for the next hour because I might be dead tomorrow. I won't be able to spend time with my son. But right now, I can give to you guys. I have an abundance of time. I have now, right? And that's a lot. I have 100% of right now. So that's why I'm going to put my all into these questions, right? And if we go over a little bit, I'm going to make sure I really answer them to the best of my ability, right? And that's really the power um, that you harness by fighting off that scarcity mindset. And yeah, life is short, but that in of itself should take you to the idea that, oh, but you do have now and you have an abundance of this moment, of this hour, of today, right? So use it fully, right? Because you have all of the time that you do have, right? And that's where it's just a little bit of perspective and the lever or the switch to get from the scarcity perspective mindset to the abundance perspective mindset is gratitude, right? What am I grateful for? Well, I'm grateful for the time that I do have, even if I don't have any time after tomorrow, right? So focus on that. That's the way to fight your scarcity mindset, even though there's scarcity of everything, right? Like I don't have an infinite amount of money, I don't have an infinite amount of time, right? But being happy with what you have in the present and being grateful for what you do have is the first step to triggering yourself out of the scarcity mindset and into an abundance mindset. Because if you focus on what you do have, then you're like, okay, what can I do with it? Right? Because just think about it, like if you knew you were going to die in a certain period of time, you start to you now have an abundance of now of the next 6 months, year, week, whatever happens, hour, right? And you're going to use it to the best of your ability. And you're going to be super attractive because everyone's going to see, hey, this person is dedicated to giving and radiating and being a sun as opposed to a black hole. So hope that's helped, guys. Really great question. All right. Um, how a scarcity mindset can destroy a relationship. So love this. So the way a scarcity mindset destroys a relationship is because if I'm constantly focused on what I don't have, then I'm just again like I'm like this black hole and I'm just sucking at every opportunity to fill my lacking, whether it's a lack of confidence or a lack of money, and it's just a very taking needy perspective and approach to your environment and the people around you. And that's going to kill a relationship because, I mean, ask yourself, would you want to be with someone like that? Right? If your partner, your girlfriend, boyfriend, right? If your family member, if your colleague, boss, um, you know, was like that, would you want to, uh, be with them? Give me 1 second, guys. I've got someone is persisting me and going. So let me just deal with that very quickly. Cool. All right, let's get back in it. Um, so yeah, how can a scarcity mindset destroy a relationship? Um, you know, you're that person is if you are constantly in a scarcity mindset and you're constantly in a taking, no one enjoys perpetual taking. Like initially it might be okay that you feel needed, you feel wanted, that's good, but eventually that's going to get very unhealthy and very one-sided, right? And that will very quickly destroy a relationship, right? Because no one is going to want to constantly have to be propping up and feeding this black hole of neediness, whether it's someone who needs actual resources and money or compliments or ego boosts or whatever or just time. And again, if they're not getting an equal exchange, right? If both parties are giving to each other in roughly equal amounts, then that's great because I'm like, oh, I give to that person, I feel good because I was able to contribute, and then that person gives to me. It's like, oh, that person likes me, they invest in me. Cool, that's a healthy relationship. That's a healthy friendship. That's a healthy business partnership. Employee relationship, family relationship. That is a healthy relationship of any kind, right? But one that's constantly, hey, I'm lacking, I don't have enough, give me. Hey, fulfill, fix my emptiness, fill my cup, please, sir, may I have some more, right? That begging is going to drain somebody. Sometimes very literally, you're just going to eat up all their time and then they're going to suck, right? Like if you're constantly needing time and someone keeps giving it to you, incorrectly, you're gonna eventually suck up all their time. They're not gonna have time to do anything that for themselves that makes them happy, and they're gonna become a person that one you don't like anymore and can't give to you anymore, and then two, then they're gonna stop liking themselves. They're just gonna be miserable and unhappy people. Like it's just a recipe for destruction. Like 6 ways to Sunday. So yeah, the scarcity mindset will definitely inevitably destroy a relationship. It's just a matter of when and how fast. And so again, the key being to trigger out of that and avoid that is, focus on gratitude. I think having a daily gratitude ritual, which I've had for quite a few years, is super key and super helpful. Just listing like three things in the morning. What I do is three things in the morning that I'm grateful for, like, before I even have my morning coffee, like first thing in the morning, and then same thing at night as I'm winding down the day. Three things that I'm grateful for. And that will always trigger out whether I'm having a good day or a bad day, or if I'm feeling, half empty or half full, that's going to trigger me into an abundance mindset, and keep me very and check my scarcity mindset, tendencies, because we all have them, especially when you have especially when you're having a bad day. But you want to check that scarcity mindset because, again, it will destroy any relationship, romantic or otherwise. So you definitely don't want to have that. I find it again, just I can't help it in business and employment scenarios that can really destroy business and work type relationships as well. So again, any kind of relationship, focus on gratitude, kill the scarcity. All right, next up, really good questions. I love it. And they're all very much on point of abundance. I see people are getting it. They're at least tackling the challenges of abundance. Because again, it's easier said than done, but you put a little effort into it and again, do some of these gratitude rituals and it'll keep you in abundance mentality and think about how can I give to people, you know. All right, next question. What is the best way to reverse a scarcity mentality? Okay, great. Yeah, that's we kind of covered that and I'll hit it again. So, the best way to reverse a scarcity mentality is to focus on gratitude, right? Cuz you're grateful for what you do have and focusing your attention on what you do have is the exact opposite of what scarcity is. Focusing on what you do have is the abundance mentality. Focusing on what you don't have is the scarcity mentality. And we rather not have that one because that doesn't help anybody. And again, so I always like to point out we're not talking about being an optimist or a pessimist, right? Is, you know, whether the glass is half full or half empty isn't really the point. It's half. I have 4 ounces of liquid. Whatever amount I have is what I have. Let's focus on what I do have. What can I do with this 4 ounces of water or 12 ounces of water, however much water, or this 2 drops of water, whatever I have, let's focus on what I can do with that. That's abundance mentality. Focusing on, oh, well, I don't have all this water. I'm missing water. I could put water here and this bucket's empty. Yeah, that's a scarcity mentality. We don't want to do that, right? And the best way to fight and reverse that scarcity mentality is to focus on gratitude. So simply, again, something that I've done for years that I highly recommend everyone do is a gratitude ritual. So like in the morning when, I'm doing morning stretch and making my coffee, I write down really quickly 3 things that I'm happy for. And I have a daily journal of like what I'm going to do for the day. So I just jot it in the journal for that day, one, two, three, right? First thing when I wake up. And then at the end of the day, while I'm winding down, maybe making notes of things to remember tomorrow, I put that in that 3 things that I'm grateful for. That habit alone is like it's like a force field against the scarcity mindset. If you can, and set an alarm in your phone to remind yourself to do it, um, that works great. This way you do it every day. You do it in the morning and at night. It gets into your dream state brain. It really embeds in your mind and into your subconscious to be always focusing on what you do have. And you'll find you'll be a great problem solver as well too, because you can only solve problems with the resources that you have, not the resources you don't have. And it'll filter into all areas of your life. Work, family, again, obviously dating, relationships, tackling that and reversing that scarcity mindset is huge because you start building and you start creating because you're focused on the tools that you do have and create based off what you do have. One of my favorite sort of analogies and ways to think about it is like, if you're at home and you want to make dinner and you didn't really plan anything, you haven't bought any groceries, right? You know, a thing I know we definitely did this in college, and my mom did it sometimes when I don't know she was too tired to go to the store, or whatever have you. She'd be like, "Hey, we're gonna have a casserole, whatever is in the kitchen cupboard casserole," and sometimes that was like tuna with beans and tomato sauce. It's like really funky casserole. It's like, hey, we're gonna make a dinner with whatever it is that we have um, right now. I know like some Adam made it over the holidays. I was at his house. He made bubble and squeak. This is a classic British dish. Essentially like mash it. It's like kind of like home fries, but it's like with the leftover potatoes from whatever your big Thanksgiving, Christmas dinner, roast, or whatever have you, and just all the leftovers mashed up into like a mashed potatoes, and you fry it and make like a hash brown leftover, mishmash of food, and you put gravy on it, and it's delicious and it's healthy, right? But the point being is, you know, what do I do have? So hey, what are we gonna make for breakfast? Hey, we're just gonna whatever's left over. What are we gonna make for dinner? Hey, whatever's in the cabinet, we're gonna make that, and we're gonna make that work as opposed to, oh, I would love to have a steak dinner. Well, we don't have any steak and we need to go to grocery stores for this and we can't do that and we don't have this and we need that. abundance mentality. What do I do have? What can I build? What can I make with what I do have? And focusing on gratitude is like, hey, the cupboards aren't empty. I'm grateful the cupboards aren't empty. Don't have filet mignon in there, but they're not empty. We got macaroni and Kraft cheese box powdered cheese. Cool, we're gonna make that. So that's the key. That's how you fight that scarcity mentality and reverse it into the abundance mentality. Great question. I love that one. Okay, another one. So getting a little broader. So what is wrong with the relationships in today's society? Geez, that's a big question. That's a big question. Um, hmm. So there's a few ways to answer that. Um, hmm. Relationships in today's society. There's a lot wrong with relationships in today's society. Um, so there's a lot wrong with relationships in today's society, but one of the things that I often see and hear when I, talking to, a lot of my friends about their relationships and what's going right and what's going wrong and things of that sort, and what I overhear, what I the consistent thread that I can tease out is the understanding. Sorry guys, for some reason I'm getting phone calls and I don't know why. Interrupting the video. So I'm going to start again. Give me 2 seconds. Cool. That should do it. Oh, I see. Because I'm on the Wi-Fi. I'm actually have Wi-Fi calling enabled. Okay. Hopefully that won't happen again. So starting again. So what is wrong with relationships in today's society? Um, there's a lot wrong with relationships in society today. One of the big things that I find and sort of the trends that I see that sort of ruin and steer relationships wrong is the ability to make choices, and people understanding sort of the opportunity cost of choices. And I think that's a big one. The the key to a relationship is, mutual investment. And that's a choice because if I invest one way, I can't invest another way, right? Like even if I have $1 trillion billion, then I can only buy $1 trillion billion worth of stock. I can't buy that trillion, but I gotta pick 1 trillion billion. Like I can't buy all of it because I'd be the only person in the world, right? Like you have to make choices. And so it's about opportunity costs in investing your time, your attention, and things of that sort. And I think, again, a lot of it comes from technology. Not to sound like some weird old man, talking shit about technology, but because it's great. But one of the things that it has done, it's made things perceptively easy to access. you know Technology has given us sort of this tendency towards instant gratification. And so with a lot of things in relationships, we want everyone wants the perfect relationship, to be madly in love with someone that's madly in love with them and for it to be perfect. And you know that is a possibility, but the idea that you're just going to meet someone on a dating app and go on one date and be there is just a terrible expectation. It doesn't work that way. Right. One of the key elements of relationships is again positive chemicals and investment release from making those investments in each other over a period of time. Right. The fact that it happened once isn't enough. So time is a key aspect. I think that's probably one of the most powerful lessons about dating that I ever learned from Adam, and it's served me well. And anytime I've struggled or had issues with dating, I can very easily look back to it as like it's losing sight of that principle, right? Time is a very key element, right? And then the right behaviors over time is a key element. And this comes up a lot, with the ACE formula. It's, when I'm coaching abundance, and I know the confidence and escalation coaches say the same thing. It's like, it's not just about knowing the right thing and the right behaviors and the right activities and the right things to say at the right time, right? You have to do it, but you have to consistently do it. Right. And I think with relationships in today's society, because we don't have to wait, and time is less of a issue in getting a lot of the things that we want in life, the last most elusive one is a relationship. But that's because someone else's time is a prerequisite, is an ingredient for that, right? Like I can order whatever I want off of Amazon, right? And it's just got Amazon Prime show up later tonight, even, right? Certainly by tomorrow, right? And I don't have to go and get it. I can watch any show that I want from the last since the history of television and movies. It's all on. I can Google it. It's on Hulu or Netflix or Prime or something. Like I have so much easy access to anything that I want, information, knowledge, things that, well, it was very rare data and information. It's all very readily available. And one of the things that's just not that quick and easy to get is a relationship, because it literally requires another human being to be involved in it, right? Um, and so, we can't technologize that, you know I think I've heard, like, I know a lot of the porn industry has gone to that way, like, was like chat room girls and things, and like, that type of, to try to make it faster, like is a real human being, like someone that can respond to you, right? And so I know porn has gone that way for exactly that reason, because it's like, how can I make it more instantaneous gratification, right? But again, that's not a relationship. And I think in today's society, that's missing. And again, both men and women approach it from a different angle, but there's an expectation of, hey, I did the thing, I should get the thing, right? And again, anyone who's trying to sell us stuff, you know, makes it very, hey, just do this thing, give me this thing, give me this many dollars, and I'll give you the thing that you want, and life is going to be great, right? And obviously, anyone trying to sell you something is going to make it as easy as possible. As soon as you give me the thing, I'll give you the thing, right? And it's a very quick trade. But in relationships, it's not, right? Because again, a key element of relationship is that trust, right? And that that oxytocin, that bonding, that reliability, and that those positive feelings of like safety, and things that only come from someone giving you positive feelings and vibes and emotions over time, so that they can be somewhat expected or dependable. And I think that's the biggest thing in the biggest problem with relationships in society today. Again, there's a lot, you could talk about that forever, but that's my personal take on it, is a lack of respect of time, and that those things need to grow over time, in different ways. And there's a lot of ingredients to the recipe, but it's not like throw it all in a bucket, stir, and instant cake. It's like, no, you got to bake it. You do have to bake it. It's not just stir and serve. You have to bake it. You have to put it in the oven. It has to the right ingredients need to be all applied in the right proportions over a period of time, and then you get a good relationship. So great question, really deep. I like that. All right, last question, and then I see we got some folks in the chat. I will hit those questions up right as soon as we finish. We'll do this last question. Cool. Good, good, good. All right, cool. Last question. What is the brutal truth about relationships? A lot of ways I can look at that. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I got the answer for this. Um, so from my perspective, the brutal truth about relationships is that it's a trade. And this can kind of like shock people, right? It's a trade. Relationships are a trade. Relationships of all kinds are a trade. Obviously, we're focusing on, dating. I've asked a dating coach. Makes sense, right? So, especially in romantic relationships, it's a trade. Um, and again, particularly speaking about men, women, you know, same gender relationships, whatever the case may be, it's a trade. And that's the brutal truth. And people often try to overlook that. They think that like, the one, or their perfect love, or the ideal relationship is this some kind of like gift from God, or a miracle that you just get because you're a good person, right? And again, movies portray this, which is like, I hate watching movies, particularly like rom-coms of that nature. Not because I just like action movies as well. It's just because they often very much misinform. Like I hate watching movies about romance and relationships, and I hate watching movies about finance because I'm expert in those areas. I know most of what you see in the movie is BS. I have friends who are like, coding, experts and computer engineers and things of that sort. And anytime there's a movie about, hackers or coding, they can't watch it because it's terrible. Because like that shit's not true. I have military friends say this very same thing. It's like that's completely unrealistic or police. So if for me, relationship movies and finance movies can't watch them because it's dumb and it's peddling, lies. And so I think understand the brutal truth is it's a trade, it's a give and take, right? And that's why the oldest profession is prostitution at the oldest, most basic level of male and female of any species. It's trading resources versus reproduction, right? And that is the most fundamental trade. And in a very sort of woke era, a very feminized era where women have rights, period, and are generally, at least people expect them to be treated equally. This is sounds like an archaic idea. um, and again, that doesn't need to be the trade, but that's the trade. Like biologically, that's the trade, right? That's why, female spiders eat male spiders. That's the point. Male spider provides semen and food, which is themselves. And the female spider provides, you know, nourishment and nurturing and protecting of the eggs and, to give birth to the new generation of spiders. That's the trade, right? And I love the analogy of the spider because the male spider literally gives his whole life, like he is the food. And that's the trade. And so I think at many levels, it's all about a trade. Again, even in same sex couples, there's a trade, right? It's like, hey, I'm giving you positive feelings, you're giving me positive feelings, right? I'm contributing to it. I'm investing in you, you're investing in me, right? And that's the brutal truth about relationships is that it's the key is it's a risky proposition, right? It's always a risky proposition, right? Because you can invest and someone and not get a return. Like again, there's a reason why I teach this and I also teach finance and I was in people who know I was an investment banker for 10 years and I work in personal finance for over 2 decades, right? Like I've always worked since I left college in the field of investments, right? And so I inherently get this and I apply it to both areas of my life. And it's about being a prudent investor, right? And it might go wrong. And I think just the entire concept of marriage in many cases, it was designed to limit that riskiness, right? That's why like arranged marriages fundamentally, like I'm in some ways, this is sound crazy, but like I'm a big fan of arranged marriages. Like I get it. I don't think people should be owned and traded, but like I get why arranged marriages are a good thing, right? Like it's really, you have to appreciate that because it's all about mitigating risk. The finance nerd in me gets that, right? Because if I'm the granddad, I want my genetic code to be in good hands, right? And my son or my grandson even, like you don't have enough experience to make good decisions, right? You don't know about making life trades with human beings. I have 20, plus years on my son or my grandson, right? I've got decades more experience in making good trades, and that's why the arranged marriages have been a thing and still are in many cultures, right? And I think, tying in, that's one of the biggest challenges. This is tying into a previous question is one of the biggest challenges with relationships. It's like, hey, it's a trade, it's an investment, right? And yeah, I hope I get a return. And again, one of the things we teach people in the ACE formula is how to proceed, um, cautiously and invest cautiously, and have an abundance mentality. Certainly, I know this from my time playing, like semi-professional poker. It's like that's the key to being a good poker player. Like you do have to invest and take risks, but do it prudently. You don't want to be reckless because otherwise you're just guaranteed that's gambling. So you don't want to gamble.
And I think a lot of people in relationships, they gamble or they overinvest or they don't diversify. Again, one of the key concepts in abundance, even if your goal is to be, in a monogamous relationship, a permanent monogamous relationship in the long term, you don't necessarily want to start there. That's a terrible idea. Doesn't mean the first person you meet, you have one date and you go enter, a lifelong monogamous relationship from hello, or for the second or third date, or even 2, 3 months in. That's a terrible idea. That's the exact opposite of abundance. That's a scarcity mentality. Oh, this is the only person I'm gonna ever meet. Like, nah, there's millions of people in the world. Um, so I think that's the brutal truth about relationships. And it can, it's a lot to unpack, and I could talk about it for days. But relationships are a trade. It's a calculated investment, right? You're investing in someone and you hoping they're investing back in you. And the key to like any good investment is like read the fine print and talk about the investment. It's like, hey, will I definitely get my money back? Am I investing in debt? Do you owe me? Or is it like an equity partnership or investment where it's like, hey, if things go well, I'll pay you back. Like you'll make money, we'll profit together. And I think relationships are definitely more like equity investments than debt investments. There is no legal requirement for anyone to counter invest in you. And again, we talk about that a lot in the ACE formulas, how to manage that and invest well. Um, and I think, understanding that trade and how to go about it. I think that's the toughest thing about relationships. I think that's what everyone gets wrong. It's a lot of what people get wrong. I've answered a previous question like what's the biggest problem with relationships in society today? Again, and I said it was about a time horizon and just understanding time, and relationships take time to form. Same thing with investments. If I went into the stock market thinking I was going to triple my money tomorrow, right? That's a very bad. Just not that I can't triple my money, just it's probably not going to be tomorrow, right? Like maybe going to casino to do that, but again, now that's a very risky investment. That's like walking into a strip club and getting on a knee and proposing. That's it could work out great, but probably not. It's really risky. So yeah, that's the brutal truth about relationships. It's a trade, it's a calculated investment, and there is a right or wrong way to go about it. And there are certain expectations that you do need to be prudent, and it does take time. And you need to be very clear on what it is you're trading. Any trade is okay. Like there's no right or wrong trade, but people need to understand, hey, we are trading, right? I have expectations of you, you have expectations of me, talking about those things. And I think, all the best relationship therapists and relationship books that I've read, and I've read like, the top three, in the world or on Amazon. One of my favorites is the five love languages. That's written by, a relationship therapist. I think it's a couple of relationship therapists or doctors, I believe. They all have that expectation clarification concept in any couple relationship therapy is stating those expectations. And again, being a banker, that's like read the terms and conditions of the agreement, right? Like let's talk about it. You expect this, I'm trading this, you're trading that. Cool, agreed, good. Oh wait, you're not going to give me this? Wait, you're not. Okay, let's talk about that, right? Because you want to know all those things. And again, you uncover those and you unravel those over time, and then you progress over time as you understand those things. So there you go with that. So that's all the written questions or the pre-sent questions. I got, hey, what's up, Chris, Tony? Good to see you. All right, let's get Chris Tony's question. All right, I have a good mindset and don't do bad with girls in general, but I always have to work for it. I love to go to nightclubs. Pre-COVID, yeah, I used to love to go to nightclubs too, man. Um, if I don't work, there's nothing happening. Yeah. So, okay, cool. Got it. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's important to grasp and appreciate, and I wouldn't see it as a bad thing. Like that's the point. Like you do have to put effort in. Like you can't just. That's one of the most powerful things that I learned when I first started studying, dating and game and the science of dating is, you know, on paper, it's like, hey, and I've had some girlfriends, and everyone thinks I'm a great guy, and some of my female friends and male friends they refer me and set me up on dates, and that goes well. Anyone who like actually knows me likes me, but a lot of what the work is presenting yourself to the world, and that's actually what I do teach in the abundance formula. That's a big, or sorry, in the ACE formula. That's a big section of the abundance module in the ACE formula. Is like, hey, you could be the perfect guy. Like, I mean, you literally could be God's gift to women, but if they don't know, like, how are they supposed to know that you are literally the perfect man? How would they know that? Right? How do you tell them without sounding like a complete douchebag? Right? Because you might be awesome. You might be every woman's dream. They might fight over you if they knew you, but they don't all know you, right? And so that's a big element of how do you present yourself. And you're right, it does take work. And again, I strongly recommend, not to keep plugging my program, right? Like, I don't necessarily own it, but I'm a big fan of it because it works. And Adam taught me, this shit, decades ago, and it totally changed my life. So like, that's why I coach for it. Like, I don't get paid $1 million, to do this teaching or to teach on the ACE formula. I really do it out of the love and just to like pay it forward. Again, abundance. It's like I don't get paid what I'm worth for my time. When in my finance business and as a banker and financial consultant, yes, I get paid for my time. It's like $2,000 an hour, right? That's what I get paid for that's what I'm worth, right? But I have an abundance of time, right? And so I'm not always going to be working, and I'm happy to work for the social trading company as the dating coach and give my time to help other men and women find relationships because it totally transformed my life, and I'm super grateful, right? Again, that gratitude triggering my abundance, so that I'm happy to give time, even though I'm not getting paid what my, normal day rate is or hourly rate, to share this because it's so important, right? And I want to help people find, again, love, relationship, companionship, all the things that, and, an abundant lifestyle can give. So, yeah, in the ACE formula, we get into how to make it easier. So you're right. It does take effort. And I think that's great because, again, if you've been on for the whole, all 10 questions, it's a concept that came up a lot. It's like, yeah, it does take effort. The key to relationships is you have to invest. You have to put that time in. And that's, you have to put in investment over time, right? It's like you want a healthy 401k when you retire. Well, you have to put money into your 401k every month. It's not just putting a lot of money one day and then cool, I'm gonna retire healthy. No, you got to keep putting money in over time. So that's the key. So great. I'm glad you realized that. And again, there are easier, more efficient ways to put in that work. And we do cover that in the ACE formula. So again, it's like a exchange one-to-one. How do I build abundance? How do I get to be the chased instead of the chaser? Okay, great question. I mean, like, this is literally what I teach in the ACE formula. The short answer, again, is why it's called abundance, is to, again, embody an abundance mindset and provide abundance. So if I have an abundance of something, it means I have extra, right? And so give the extra, like add value, right? And because if you're constantly adding value, right, then you're going to attract people because they're going to like, oh, wow, free value, right? Like it's like an ATM. If the ATM just kept spitting out 20s, you know, extra 20s, like whether it's just like this ATM just spits out a 20 every 5 minutes. Well, everyone's going to come hang out by that ATM and wait for the next 20 to come out because it's just spitting out value. Like, doesn't ask for anything. You don't need to put a deposit in. You don't even need to put in a debit card. It's just going to spit 20. Walk by, spit a 20, right? That's adding value. So, and again, if the bank had extra money to throw away, it might do that, right? So if you can be that, you know, crazy ATM that's just giving out extra value, right? And again, it doesn't need to be $20 bills, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to cost you anything. That's the other thing. Like, it's got to be something you do have extra of, and you're happy to give, freely and willingly. Something I think that I've embodied, and I took this lesson from Adam, is, again, he's worth very much money per hour and has a lot of people paying him, hundreds of $1,000s for like a week of consultation, even a couple of days of consultation, right? And so, his time is very, very, and has been very valuable. Like, you can put a very large, I think almost like 5-digit number on an hour of his time, right? Mathematically. And yet he'll still give a lot of time away for free. And again, being that we're neighbors, I see him do it all the time. And I'm like, yo, you just gave that was like 20 grand of help right there. Forget the value that, like, if that person implements what you just said, right? But like, just the time you spend 30 minutes talking to them about something, you just gave that away. And it's usually in a very specific time. It's not when he's not going to stop a date with his girlfriend. He's not going to stop playing with his kids to do it. He's not going to do that in the middle of his running his business. But he has a certain amount of time on certain days where he's happy to like help people out, right? And he allocates a certain amount of time because that's his extra time. It's extra time to give out and help people, right? And so that's the same thing, knowing what you can give away for free without hope of repayment or return, just like pure charity. Knowing what that is and then doing that, that's going to attract people um, to you, right? And when you have that, then it starts to actually become a a better than one-to-one exchange, right? Especially if you're giving people value that is essentially cheap for you to generate. It's throwaway, it's extra, right? Like your waste is another person's, treasure, right? So, and then people will start giving you because they're like, hey, wow, you gave me stuff, I'm gonna give more, and so that is a good way, and that's how you become the chased instead of the chaser, because people see, hey, you're constantly giving, they're gonna want to, again, it's, imagine that broken ATM, people are gonna start lining up, like everyone, no one's gonna use any ATM in the entire city, they're gonna use that one because it gives out free 20 sometimes if it's got them, So you want to be like that broken ATM that's just giving out extra value. If you got extra value, when I was in the nightclubs in New York, it's like I'm giving away thousands of dollars of free champagne and alcohol, and you can sit in the VIP and hang out with me, right? Again, I'm not paying 10 grand to get a VIP table and all this expensive champagne and then just giving it out. Again, now if I was a baller like that, if I'm Mark Cuban, I seen him do that one night. Like that dude's a billionaire. I'm not a billionaire, right? So again, he's not gonna miss it. But because I have a relationship with the club, I can do that, and I can invite friends, and I can invite people and give it to them, and it doesn't cost me an arm and a leg, right? And I can do that every night, and I did almost every night for like 10 years because I have that extra, right? And then people want to hang out with me because they're like, hey, I hook them up with VIP and champagne, and so that's the key, and that's how you get chased. So creating that for your lifestyle is the key. Cool. So we're a little bit over. Hope that's been helpful. Again, signing off, Chris Hollywood from the ACE Formula and Ask the Dating Coach. Look forward to your questions. Put them in the Facebook group, put them in the chat, and we will get to them next month. Have an abundant January. Ciao.